Hi folks, this is CNB on the NDTV network. Great to have you with us. We've got with us on the program the all-new BMW 1 Series. Now last week we told you that this car will drive in, and we brought you all the details on what the car carries on board. What we now have for you are the details in terms of the pricing, the positioning, and of course the variants. The car starts off with the 116i, that is the petrol version, 20.9 lakh rupees, that's where it starts off, and then the range tops off with the Sport Plus Diesel 118D at 29.9 lakh rupees. So that is pretty much where we expected it to sit. Takes on the A-Class from Mercedes-Benz. The details on the variants and their prices are coming up in the sector snapshot just a little bit ahead on the program. But let's start off by talking about another hatchback. That is another car that you were expecting, and another launch from this week. The Grand i10 from Hyundai. We brought you a bit of a preview a few weeks ago. That car was camouflage. You just got a few basic sort of bits about that car. The interiors, how that diesel drives, all of that now coming up.
The Grand i10 is quite certainly the next big small car for us in India. The Korean small car specialist has certainly got our attention with great pricing, and also its first small diesel engine for cars below the i20.
Now globally this car replaces the i10. In India it's the Grand i10 for a reason, because of course the regular i10, or the erstwhile one, continues alongside this car. When you look at the car's face, right up front, it tends to look a little bit narrow. This car doesn't somehow instantly give you the impression that it's a nice, big, ample hatch. The minute you come around the side, of course, you get a sense of the fluidic styling with the headlamp traveling upwards. It's a little Figo-esque, but still very much fluidic. But like I said, the minute you come to the side, you suddenly start to see that, hang on, this is a nice, big car as compared to that small hatch brigade. It's not too tall, and that's a little surprising, because you'd think that, hang on, is that going to be really tiny? But we'll talk about the interiors in just a bit. It is this part of the car that's the most important for us, because the wheelbase has increased by 100 millimeters just for the Grand i10, giving it perhaps a reason to be called Grand. In the European context, the car will have the shorter wheelbase only. You won't get this version in Europe. And keeping in sort of terms with that overall style, I would have liked to have seen a slightly larger wheel size, because this looks a little bit dwarfed to me, just tends to look a little bit tiny. But otherwise, it works quite well, the overall styling. There is a nice light catching element here in the metal, nicely designed. It adds a little bit of depth and muscle to the side, and of course you've got the cladding which also helps that. The chrome door handles on the top end, nice high-end feel. They have a good chunky feel too, so it seems a little upmarket, this car. Same sort of feel at the back in terms of matching the styling up front. It's not very imaginative. It could have been a little more wild, a little bit more outlandish. It's a nice safe design, but nice sense of width here at the back. And of course the CRDI badging tells you this is the diesel. And here's the best part, a huge boot. It's definitely bigger than the Swifts. This is going to be another segment favorite.
Yes, it's large looking, it has a large boot, but is it large on the inside? The cabin has a fresh feel, and it definitely looks upmarket when compared to other small cars. The plastic quality is definitely way better than the existing i10, and the dash is designed rather smartly too, in a two-tone finish with an inbuilt music system and AC console.
When you get into the back of the car, the way it looks from the outside, you don't expect so much headroom. It doesn't look like a very tall vehicle, and yet it's actually pretty ample. You get a nice airy sense in the cabin, and the best part, the way that the seat angle has been designed, it's a nice comfortable back seat, something you don't usually get in a small car. And one more thing which you never get in a small car, rear AC vents. That's going to be a huge plus. People are going to love that. Nice ample rear seat, good leg room, and great headroom.
So all this is very well, but what about the drive, right? The reason we chose the diesel is because it is the all-new engine. The 1.2 Kappa petrol is known to us, isn't it? The new unit is promising and it offers a claimed mileage of 24 kilometers to the litre of diesel. Power and torque are also ample enough. On the road, the engine is reasonably athletic, but we were a bit surprised to find the engine noise creeping into the cabin. But the gearbox is smooth and the initial pickup is also great. The engine lacks lag, which is another plus.
Now this diesel engine, it gives you the chance to finally have a real rival, a real competitor to the Maruti Suzuki Swift. Remember, that car has had its big success on the back of that 1.3 litre DDIS, and which is why this one becomes really important for the market. It seems to me that the engine has been tuned for just a greater amount of fuel efficiency. That seems to have come through, because you're missing a little bit of that low-end torque, which I think would have been really important, especially in city traffic. On the highway, the car has a great characteristic, but it's certainly not as sporty as the Swift. The Swift has a definitely sportier character. But having said that, you compare this to the previous i10, even compared to the i20, the handling on this car, very, very nice. It's a big improvement for Hyundai. I think that's something that's been worked on, very European sort of handling, and it comes through instantly. The car responds really well, goes where you want it to. The steering has a very light feel to it, which I'm not crazy about. It's the same problem that you've seen on the Elantra, the Verna, to a certain extent on the i20. The i10 didn't have it, but now you've got the similar sort of steering system. Indian drivers love that though, because it seems really smooth and buttery. So I don't think that's going to be a problem really for people. Overall, the highway characteristic of the car is really, really nice. I'm glad to see that, because a lot of people now are taking their family cars out on the highway. In city traffic, you won't be able to get into overdrive too often. You might have to stay in fourth gear. But aside from that, the engine comes through fairly well. I do expect it to have strong sort of credentials on the fuel efficiency side. I wish this car had a dead pedal. Hyundai always gave us a dead pedal. I'm surprised this time not to see one.
But the car is a comfortable drive. The Sports and Asta variants at the top are pretty well loaded too. Keyless entry, start-stop button, rear parking sensors, electric folding mirrors, and loads more. The prices have pleasantly surprised everyone, and yes, they undercut the Swift variant for variant on both petrol and diesel. Hyundai calls these prices introductory, of course.
Hyundai Motor looking to bring in a lot of buyers, steal them away from the Maruti Suzuki Swift. And just like Maruti, Hyundai choosing to go with introductory prices, nice juicy prices on that Grand i10. And of course, this means that they're looking at notching up some bookings between now and the festive season. We'll probably see a bit of a price revision later on that car. Now the 1 Series, when we first showed you this car in the earlier half of this year, I remember telling you about how this is a really fun driver-oriented car. That's the kind of buyer it's going to attract. Even BMW knows that it's not going to notch up volumes higher than the 3 Series or the 5 Series, because most BMW buyers, well, they choose to sit at the back. So having said that, it's all right that you don't have too many variants. But in terms of trim, you only get the sport trim, and I'm a little disappointed by that, because you remember, we showed you the urban trim when we brought you the car for the first time exclusively, and you can do a lot of fun things with that car. You can customize the front grille, throw in a few color inserts down here on the bumper, also throw in a little extra color or a contrast here on the rear view mirrors. So a little more fun, a little more youthful, a little more individualistic. That's the kind of buyer this car hopes to attract. So a little disappointed not to see that. and perhaps BMW could introduce the urban trim later on. The Indian automobile industry has been facing quite a tough slowdown. We've talked about it for months now, and you know what? Except for new car launches or new bike launches, nothing else seems to excite the buyer. It's a tentative market, and the slowdown doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. So the industry is really worried, and the government doesn't seem to want to do anything about it. Well, that's the kind of mood we picked up from the annual SIAM convention in New Delhi. We spoke with a whole lot of players from the industry, met up with them, heard out their concerns. First, let's just take stock of where things stand for the auto sector.
The Indian automobile industry has been facing a tough slowdown for over 18 months. It started with just a few segments, but soon, barring a few sweet spots, everything started to go south. And now, even those sweet spots are few and far between.
Well, clearly the year has not turned out to be what we had expected, Mahindra or the industry, both what we had expected for the year. And there are several factors that we all know about as to what has led to the current situation. And the industry is right now in a situation of reasonably high degrowth, perhaps even worse than what we had in 2008-9 timeframe.
And that is the biggest worry. While the 2008-2009 crisis was sparked off by global macroeconomic factors, now most of the issues affecting India's economy overall, and therefore auto too, are internal.
The CV industry in particular is extremely closely linked to economic progress. So if there's industrial growth, if there's GDP growth, of course we will see growth in the CV market. Now, of course, the CV market is cyclical. We are at the bottom of the cycle, and hopefully this is really the absolute bottom.
So whatever the government is doing to boost the general economy, hopefully that will start to give some results. Not a lot is expected that suddenly there will be a return of the economy to 8-9% GDP growth.
GDP growth has fallen from 9.6% 3 years ago to around 5% this year, and the impact on the auto space is evident in the April to June quarter. Sales of passenger vehicles are down 8.31% year on year. Two-wheelers started the year much stronger but are now also facing pressure since June. The CV space has been beleaguered for quite some time because of the economic activity also slowing down across India, and overall, this has cost the sector as a whole. Even though exports could have helped fill the gap, they too have only gone south in all segments of the auto industry, barring three-wheelers. Fuel prices have also risen in the last 1 year, and a blow to the high-selling SUV segment in this year's budget has compounded the industry's woes. After months of asking for a stimulus package, the industry is now desperately pleading the government for the same once again, and they spoke with one voice at the annual Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers annual convention in Delhi.
The auto industry has requested the government of India for some kind of stimulus package. As we have heard today, the Minister of Heavy Industry, Mr. Praful Patel, has supported that there is a need for such a stimulus package, and he has promised that he will talk to the Finance Ministry and try and convince the Finance Ministry that something needs to be done for the auto industry. We just hope that some good results will come out of that.
Now is a time when government has to step in and take some tough decisions to support the industry. See, with the current economic situation, we are not seeing much movement in the market, and obviously, I would say there is a very cautioned optimism, at our end as far as festive period is concerned. It's going to be anybody's guess, so we have to really wait and watch.
Even if the government does not come through with a stimulus package that sees the lowering of duties, the industry still has the festive season to look forward to in a bid to increase sales.
I'm not so sure. Let me say I'm praying that we have a good quarter in the festival season. I'm really hopeful that there is more money in agriculture. I hope some more money is, because of the good monsoon, and I hope people buy. Whether they buy cars or they buy TVs or they buy whatever, I hope they spend some money, and I hope the economy comes up this quarter.
The industry is also stepping up its export thrust in a bid to earn higher revenues by using the rising rupee to its advantage. But even those in the relatively strongest position acknowledge that the year looks to be a tough one and nothing much may change until after the next general election.
Less than desirable situation for the Indian automobile industry, no doubt. It's been like that for some months now, and every year the industry does get its heads together here at the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers Annual Convention. And this year, of course, it's that slowdown that is the top of the overall discussion agenda, if you will. Joining us to talk not just about what's happening in the industry, but also perhaps the way forward is Carl Slim from Tata Motors. Thank you so much, Carl.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well, and would have been nicer still if the circumstances had been a little more cheerful, but this isn't new anymore. I mean, this is something that you've had the chance, and you in particular also now have had the chance to grapple with, even from the Tata perspective, for some time. The way forward seems bleak simply because we're not really hearing solutions from anyone, including the government. So what can we really expect, or what can the industry at this point really do to try and change things?
I know we haven't heard resolutions from the government this morning, but we don't normally get that from any government in any part of the world when the country's in a recession, and it's also linked to the global environment as well. What I did think was at least encouraging today, which I think is a fairly new phenomena, is that the industry talked about the issues and the potential solutions and the support required from the government, and then the government actually didn't rebuff that. Actually, they talked honestly about, yes, that is the situation, we understand that, and we want to work together on the solutions. They were honest enough to say we don't know the solutions, and actually we'd like to work in partnership with the industry to go forward and look for the solutions. So I think it'd be great to see a magic wand this morning where people came out with all the great ideas, but I think at least it was encouraging that there wasn't a difference of opinion on the situation and how can we work together to go forward.
But that admission, Carl, that came from the government, acknowledging the situation at least, as you said, there was also another part or another bit that was being acknowledged, and that was that there seems to be a difference of opinion within the government as to what to really do, or perhaps an unwillingness from a certain part of the government to acknowledge that, all right, here's what you need to do. They don't want to do it. How much of that concerns you? Because again, that's beyond your control.
Yeah, well, anything to do with that kind of environment is beyond their control, and therefore we need to be careful on how much time and effort we put into the economy, which we can't really have much effect on, and how much time we spend on our own activities to make sure that we're prepared for the current situation. And of course, what we know will be the upside to this. It's just a case of how long is it before we get to the upside. Of course, the lack of continuity within the government is an issue. It was good to see heavy industries at least partnering with the industry to say this is what the issues are. And understandable, the Finance Minister, Prime Minister has got a bigger portfolio to think about. But I think the important measures or the important messages is that the GDP of our country and many others are affected greatly by the automotive industry, particularly manufacturing, but also the automotive industry. It was understood and spoken by the government this morning and not the industry that employment is being lost due to the fact of the situation that we're in. So I think that's new, and I would say that's probably a reflection on the length of time that this situation has been going on, and the fact that our industry is fairly resilient, but I think we've sort of reached the end of that, and this has gone on too long for us now, so both parties are recognising the need. There are ideas out there are solutions out there, and they're not going to be something that happens in 5 minutes though, and we even talked today, this morning, that it's next year and towards the end of next year before some of those will be even considered for implementation. So that's the worrying fact, knowing how deep the hole is at the moment and knowing that that can last for another year or so.
That's also assuming that we have a stable government by the end of next year, but let me not go down that road. At Tata in particular, you have faced a lot of stick, not just from the media, but in general from the market as well. Yes, your sales have declined, but what we're starting to see now is that a lot of what you implemented in terms of refreshing or reviving some of the model range, even the work that's been done recently on the Nano, it seems to be getting some traction back. So from your portfolio point of view, what exactly are you seeing right now?
Yeah, of
How
course.
encouraging is it? Let me put it that way.
It's always difficult to measure when you're measuring the kind of things that you're doing in this environment that we're in at the moment. I think we've been fairly open that we wanted to do some special things. You talked about Nano in particular. Nano has been like relaunched, if you like, or reborn under the smart city car emblem. We've done a lot more to the Nano. It really is more of a canvas for us to do lots of things with and encourage lots of different people to come and drive the Nano. So we're seeing a lot of interest in that. Our new ad, Awesome, has
gone viral.
got crazy and 5 million hits within 5 minutes, and really showing that the Nano is something cool and exciting, and I think a lot more people are seeing that. That's the Nano. Of course, we have a whole portfolio beyond the Nano as well. And we launched the 8 new vehicles or refreshments at Horizon Next, including 5 platforms. We launched the E-Max range of CNG, which is now starting to get to the dealers. So our plan at that time, this would be around for the festival season. So this is where we'll first get the start to measure that. Our market share has remained stable, so the volumes have gone down. We certainly have lost some traction in the SUV area where we don't have a soft-roader SUV, which is an area that's ballooned, but basically where we play, our market share has been stable, and now as we see the rebirth of some of the vehicles, we're seeing some growth there. Again, slightly difficult to measure in this environment, but I think encouraging that a lot of the things that have been put in place have taken traction, and we're starting to see the benefits. We need to be, I think, as you said, we've reached the bottom of the pit now, so people need to make sure that they don't do things that are loss-making and dig bigger holes for the industry and for themselves. Otherwise, that really is a suicidal path for them and for the industry. So I think it's important that people realise that chasing a sale at a loss-making situation is not going to be a suitable way out of this.
All right, well, with that, we still hope things will improve, and of course we look forward to the festive season as well. I know that's going to be important for you, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Take care.
Thank you.
Now, with that, it's a wrap here on the program. Please react to what you've seen. You've got the 2 hatches that you've seen on the program today, anything you want to see as well, and react to it all, and you know how to do that. Reach me on Twitter or on NDTV Social, and I will see you on the program next week. We have plenty coming your way, so lots to look forward to. And with that promise and the sincere plea to wear your seatbelts or your helmets, goodbye.